What up, guys? James from Bolt Bros here. Want to talk about the East West Shrine game and some of the guys that are showing out so far in practice for the last 3 days. We're also going to do it live during the East West Shrine game, so we'll talk about it. Hey, it's draft season, guys. Let's get into it, guys. Bolt Bros. Let's go. Bolt Bros. All right, once again, guys, appreciate all the love and support. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel if you've not. Throw some comments in below if you've been watching some of the East West Shrine practices. It's actually on the Lights Out Sports app too, by the way. Really cool to be able to see that. Sean Merriman got the exclusive rights for the practices for the East West Shrine game. So really cool to be able to see that. But a great little app to be able to get an idea of some prospects that are coming up for the NFL draft. So what's kind of interesting about the East West Shrine game is that there's a lot of players that are kind of more back end players, but there's guys like Shadur Sanders that are going to be there too. Albeit he's not going to be playing in this game, but there are some players that have really showed out. Zay Flowers was another guy that came out of there that had a high level pick used on him. But it's an interesting one to watch, and a lot of guys that actually could be players that could really fill some gaps. Now, I'm going to talk about the defensive side of things with the East West Shrine players so far, and a couple of players that I feel that could be pretty good fillers for this team, potentially in the depth side, or guys that actually could really show out and be really good starters for this team immediately. So let's go ahead and jump into a couple players here real quick. I'm going to go to a Georgia boy here real quick, Nazir Stackhouse. This guy is built like a stack house or built like a house, either which way you want to put it. This guy is a Georgia defensive line, absolute beast in the O-line, or excuse me, in the D-line. 6'3", 320 pounds, basically a giant gap filler for the D-line. I mean, we all kind of talk a lot about what's going on with our D-line. We talk about when our last time that we had really solid nose tackle. Go back to the Jamal Williams days. Poona Ford played really well for us last year. And by the way, he is a free agent. Also, Tier Tart is a free agent. I believe even Morgan Fox is a free agent. There's a lot of missing pieces going on with the D-line, which is something that I think we're going to have to focus on quite a bit. And Nazir Stackhouse is a guy that is just an absolute load and very, very difficult to move. The guy is an excellent gap filler player all around. He could be a guy that you just know that he's going to be there in the early downs for running downs. Basically a guy you can't really move. Guy that could basically bring in two players that are actually going to allow the edges to really do their job, or the linebackers to come in to do their job. Great gap filler, bottom line, is what I'm going to say. And he's very, very good in the run game too. So one thing that with him, and one thing with the East West Shrine game, there's a lot of guys that are in the back end draft too, obviously. And he kind of is more known as a back end type draft type player, but the guy is an absolute load. Who would not want a 6'3", 320 pound, nose tackle, middle of the D-line kind of guy? You think about, you have him with, say, Tito Abonia, with, let's get Poona Ford next to this guy. I mean, obviously, Tier Tart is another guy that we need to bring back. I mean, this guy would be an absolute great rotational piece for those early down type run situation. This guy will stuff that line with that big body of his. And interesting thing, reading up a little bit further on him, he's had a comparison to Justin Aboigbe, which is very interesting. Now, we obviously don't know too much about Aboigbe so far, but he's a guy that actually potentially could be more of a guy in the rotation in 2025. So very interesting, but I think this would be a great back-end pickup for the team. And I'm a big fan of Georgia boys. Obviously, Ladd McConkey. There you go. Jamar Salyer is another guy from Georgia. So let's go ahead and bring him on in, man. Let's get it. But he's been a one to keep an eye on, and we will be keeping an eye on a lot of these players, especially leading up to our live with the East-West Shrine game. So let's go to another position and another player that's been showing out quite a bit too in the East-West Shrine game, or practices, I should say, at this point. So Kobe Bryant. Yes, Kobe Bryant is his name, and he spells it K-O-B-E-E Bryant, I believe is how you pronounce, or how he spells it. Kansas cornerback. There's actually two very good cornerbacks in this one, but this one is an interesting one. He is basically a bit thin, about 171, but good length, around 6'2", 6'1"-ish. Very good cornerback for bump and run type situations. Still a very, very good ball hawk with about 8 picks, 15 pass breakups, and 2 defensive touchdowns on top of that. One with a forced fumble, one with a pick. And on top of that, a very solid aggressive tackler and will help with the run defense a lot. Might be kind of a mid to late round pick, but this guy is one that you want to keep an eye on. And now why I bring this one up too, obviously we got, Tarheeb still, we got Cam Hart, but we're probably going to lose Asante Samuel Jr. You also got Dean Leonard. You got these things that you're kind of looking at, like cornerbacks are a premium, and you want to be able to bring in as many cornerbacks as you possibly can. We potentially could have about 11 picks in this next draft too, guys. So these mid-round type picks could be huge for depth and for, growth of this team. Obviously, you could look at it with Cam Hart and Tarheeb still in the 5th round in the 2024 draft. This is one of those guys you'd probably want to bring in, a guy that could be a home run hitter and a game ender type guy that really could fill in a little bit more in that cornerback room. I think it's just the big knock on him is his size needs to get a little bit more muscle on his frame a bit, but this guy is a solid guy and has been making a lot of plays in the East-West Shrine practices thus far. So keep an eye out for Kobe Bryant. Who wouldn't want another Kobe Bryant back to LA, right? So it's pretty funny to see. But once again, I'll also give a shout out to the other cornerback from Kansas, Mello Dotson, too. Keep an eye on him. I'm just going to throw that out there just as one for some people to keep an eye on, too. Moving on, we got a guy here, Tyler Batty, BYU defensive end. And one thing I like about him, he's just a big dude, 6'5", 276, great edge kind of guy. The guy fights to get to the ball. Like, he is a high motor type guy. Great length. People even say he's got like a pterodactyl size type like arms. A lot of length that he has in his arms. Runs very hot as an edge. Does a great job of recognizing defenses and gets after the ball carrier. A high, relentless type guy until the guy with the ball is down on the ground. One note on him, he's a kind of a lunch pail mentality to the trenches is what people have said about him. And he has really been showing out a lot at practices. The guy has had his name utilized quite a bit and said a lot in these practices. The lunch pail mentality. You think about Jim Harbaugh and those lunch pails that he gave everybody there. Those blue collar type shirts. This guy could fit very, very well into that mold. And I think this guy could be a great one to be able to get to. It's an interesting thing too. I mean, BYU had a pretty good defense this last year in college football. There's obviously a good couple defensive players on that team. And this is one of those guys, Tyler Batty, that could be a great addition to this team to add just more of that blue collar mentality, the guy that wants to put in the work, get dirty in the trenches. This is one of those guys that could be good. Now this is kind of one where you'll see where it kind of pans out. But once again, if he shows out at practices constantly, shows out in the game on Thursday, he could potentially get his draft stock up a little bit too. But you got to love the size, 6'5", 276. Great, like hot running, relentless type mentality. Those things are unteachable. And size is always one of those things that just doesn't get taught. That is something that's given. And having that high motor is another thing too that really, really helps out a player all around. Kind of think about it like a Max Crosby. Like he was kind of a mid-round type guy, high motor type guy. Not saying that Tyler Batty could be that guy, but once again, if you have a high motor, high intensity, you have the ability to be able to be an extra effort type of guy, it could go a long way for you in the NFL. So great guy to be able to keep an eye on too. And obviously with the edge group too, you got to think about Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Who do we got from there? We got Tuli Tuipulotu. You got basically Bud Dupree left, and that's kind of really about it. So the edge is going to be a position. If, say, we walk from Bosa, say we don't get Khalil Mack, that is going to be an area that we're going to have to focus on too. So definitely one to keep an eye on with our guy, Tyler Batty from BYU. Moving on. We got another edge here, guy. This guy's name has been out there a ton. Johnny Walker, edge from Missouri. Even just to show what's in that picture with his arm out, when you watch a lot of his highlights, he could just control a tackle and just give him some great separation. He does not allow basically the tackle to really get his hands on him. He does a great job of controlling him with one hand and to be able to do an outside or even a potential inside type situation to be able to get to whoever has the ball, quarterback, running back, whoever it might be. He has done a great job on that. And he has been winning constantly at the East West Shrine practices. His name has been a big one all around. Great work in individual drills and constantly finding his way in the backfield, which has been awesome to watch. Gets great leverages, once again, with that controlling the tackle with that one arm. Watch some of his highlights. He has been doing that all day, and it seems like that is a very constant thing with him, that he does a great job of controlling the tackle. Can run around and get great bend, or he could bull rush straight through somebody and just absolutely put him on skates. It's fun to watch him. And Johnny Walker will be one of those guys that I think that will come out of the whole East-West Shrine game where his stock will potentially go up quite a bit. So once again, these are just a couple of these players that we've seen thus far. And I'm just going to give these 4 players thus far that are gap fillers or guys that could potentially be Chargers targets out there. But it's also players that we're looking at in the East-West Shrine games that where their stocks might be rising up very, very quickly. So once again, I want to see if you guys have been watching the East-West Shrine practices. We will be going live during the East-West game, which will be on Thursday afternoon. We'd love to be able to have you on that and to be able to kind of talk more football and such too, and talk about some of the prospects of guys showing out during these games. So once again, I want to hear from you. Any other player that you have noticed in the East-West Shrine practices thus far that might be great fits for the Chargers? There's a lot of really good players that are going on with this, and the D-line has been one that has been a lot of talk thus far in these practices. So I want to hear from you. Please put some comments in below about the East-West Shrine practices thus far, and also hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you've not. We always appreciate the love and support, guys. Once again, James from Bolt Bros. Let's go.
Hey, what's up? Cameron Dick here watching Bolt Bros podcast. Let's go.
Charged up, Bolt Bros on the night.